Welcome back to Well and Worthy Life podcast. Okay, today we have a solo podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you may see I have a blurry background along with a little, I don't know, it's a little frame thing. I thought it was kind of cute and fun. So I thought I would try it today. So, anyway, and if you didn't know, you can watch all of the podcasts on YouTube. It's Well and Worthy Life YouTube channel. You can subscribe just if you didn't know that. I love to listen to my podcasts when I'm on a walk. So I hope that's what you're doing, or you're doing something active while you're listening, or maybe you're listening while you're in the car. But if you ever do want to watch or listen on YouTube, you can do that too. I just wanted you to know that. So, what is the solo podcast about? I've been thinking about it and I asked you guys on Instagram what kind of solo episodes you would like to hear. And I had a few people request about how to parent adult children, some different ideas for holidays. And so that's where we're going to start today on adult children. So if you don't have any adult children, don't worry, you can still listen to this because I'm giving you some pointers along the way so that you'll be all ready when your children do hit those adult ages. Okay, first of all, I have to preface this. I am no expert at this by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have a little bit of experience. I have three boys. They are 33, 31, and 28. I have two daughter-in-laws. So I do have a little bit of experience with this, but I'm sure there are therapists out there or other coaches that could give you more ideas. I also did ask for some advice on Instagram, and I've got a great piece of advice for you as a mother-in-law. So stay tuned for that, especially a mother-in-law to a daughter-in-law. Let's start off with adult children. Okay, and I even have some notes here. So here's the thing. How do you maintain closeness with your adult children? This is my advice. You create this closeness as they grow up. And how do you create the closeness? And it's obviously, right, by spending time with them, spending quality time, listening to them. And one thing that I learned a long time ago about boys is boys, you better be ready to listen when they start talking. And they're usually going to start talking when you're doing an activity with them. So if you're walking with them, or if you're driving them in the car, and when they start talking, listen. You can learn so much. That took me a long time to understand that. I would get busy in my own day, and boys don't talk a whole lot. At least my boys didn't. It wasn't like they were sharing all their activities. It was funny because I have a lot of friends who have daughters, and I would be with them and their daughters would call them. They'd like, oh my gosh, so-and-so did such and such and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And my boys would get in the car from carpool and I would say, how was your day? Good. What happened? Nothing. I'm like, oh my gosh. But every now and then they might start talking more and sharing more. And so I would listen. The other thing that I did when my kids were younger that I really feel like created a bond is I took them on trips individually. My oldest son, who is 33 now, the first trip that I took him was when he was in third grade, and we went to Washington, D.C., just the two of us by ourselves. Made so many great memories. And then this was back in the day before cell phones. I did take pictures, and I created a picture album for him. My middle son, we didn't really go off on long trips, but one thing that we did when he was younger is we both loved roller coasters. So we would take the day, just the two of us, and drive over to Six Flags. And our whole goal was to ride every roller coaster. Again, pre-cell phones And I took pictures with a disposable camera and put together a photo album for him so he would remember it. Because believe it or not, these kids forget about all the things that we do with them. My youngest son, we did take some trips too. And I think probably one of our most memorable trips was when he graduated from high school. And just the two of us, one thing he wanted to do was go to LA. And actually, I had never even been to LA. And we went to LA for a week. We had such a great time. We did have some incidences that were not so great, but we really did have a great time. Honestly, it was those times, those memories that we had, that quality time we spent together, which created the bond that we have now as they are adults. But it hadn't been all easy. First of all, I want to tell you a couple of things. First of all, you may have an idea of how you want your child to, the track you want him to go on, him or her to go on. You may think, okay, he graduates from high school, then goes to college, and then gets out, gets a good job. Well, let me just tell you right now, all three of my boys have had several different careers already. Today's time, it may be like that. Their track may not look like your track or what you would have them do. I just need to tell you to love them through it, help them find their way, be more their guide, especially as they get older. Don't enable them. Really be there for them. Let them fail some and be there for them. And don't make everything all right all the time, because you're not going to be there all the time. And you want them to be able to stand on their own. All three of my boys now are very self-sufficient. They pay all their bills. I don't subsidize anybody. And that's not always the case. So I know a lot of my friends still are subsidizing their children, or they feel guilty because they have more than their children. But look, if you think back to this time in your life, you may not have had everything either. I'm sure you didn't. And it is the perseverance, it is the work that makes you feel so accomplished. So anyway, that's a big advice I would give you as they are transitioning from high school, college, and beyond, right? Is to be more their guide. So it's not always easy. It can be really frustrating at times, watching them make mistakes, watching them make decisions that are going to end up in a bad place. I've given my kids advice. Sometimes they've taken it, sometimes they haven't taken it. But as they've gotten older, I've learned, not all the time still, I'm not great at this, but I'm better, that not to give advice unless asked. I try to think about how I wish my mother would have done me. And then when I say my mother, is because my father, by the time I was 28, my father had passed away. So it was really my mother who used to tell me how to do things, what to do. And she interfered a lot of times in my life. And sometimes she did it out of love. She would never did it out of being mean or anything like that. She did it out of love, wanting to help me. But sometimes we need to fail. Sometimes we need to learn the hard way for it to stick, right? And watching your child as an adult make those mistakes is tough. But hopefully you've let them make some mistakes along the way when they were younger, so that when they're older, they're not making really horrible mistakes that will detour their whole life. So, like I said, it is difficult. The other thing I would tell you, as they get older, become more their friend. So I can remember one time my mother when we were in the car, we were going somewhere, and I was very much an adult by this point. My kids were teenagers, I think. We were in the car going somewhere, and she heard me on the phone talking to somebody. And my filler word is, and she heard me saying that a lot. So after I hung up from the phone, she said, "You don't need to be saying all the time." She was trying to say it in a nice way, but it really aggravated me. And I told her, I said, "Mother, you're my friend now at this point in my life. So you don't need to tell me that. Would you tell a friend that?" And she is like, "Well, I can't believe you don't, if I don't tell you, who's going to tell you?" Oh, I've used that with my children too. Who's going to tell you if I don't tell you? And sometimes we do have to tell our children things that other people may not. But that wasn't something that my mother needed to tell me, I didn't think. And I resented that. It made me almost put up a wall. So, this may be just me, but I would just tell you to really be careful about any advice you give your children. If you feel like there's something that you need to tell your child and they're a grown adult, maybe preface it in a way that, "I know you didn't ask my advice, but out of love, I have to tell you this because I'm scared if I don't tell you this, then you may wish I would have." So, if you can say it in just like you would to a friend. Again, maintaining that relationship is so important as they get older, but we have to remember our place, right? They have boundaries and we have boundaries. Okay. So again, remember creating that quality time. And that means even as adult and doing things with them and, having fun together, playing games as a family. I think we all wish that we were some big, happy family. And to be honest with you, my family is not like that. There is divorce. And so with divorce, there comes a whole different dynamic. And the bigger thing than that, even, is that all three of my boys are so, so very different. I'm not sure that they would even be friends if they weren't brothers. So you may feel the same way. I've said this many times. I think if I had 10 children, I think they would all be so different. We have these visions of these big, happy family gatherings like the Waltons. And that's if you don't have divorce. But, if you do have divorce, maybe you're thinking like the Brady Bunch. Well, chances of that happening are slim. They might happen for you, and I hope they do. But that hasn't happened for me. So what do I do? Do I still want that? Yes, I still want that. And there are times that we'll have everybody together and it'll be a nice visit. We don't really take big trips together because honestly, it just never seems to work out, especially now that I have two daughter-in-laws and they have their other things that they want to do rather than be with me. So here's the thing I would tell you about that. Try to create those memories the best you can and let go of hopes or dreams, any expectations. Once you can let go of that, then you can really embrace and accept what is. And here's the other thing. I tell you, don't build your whole life around your children. Have your own life, especially as they get to be adults, especially as they get to be married and have their own families, because they are not responsible for you and you're not responsible for them at that age. So have your own friends, your own hobbies, really spend time with your spouse if you're married. So I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, so become friends. Only give advice when asked. Cut that financial cord as soon as possible, right? Accept them as they are. That's hard sometimes. They're going to have different views on things, different ideas, different political views. Accept them as they are. Don't try to correct them. Listen to them. and let it go. Don't try to confront them. What is the point? All it will do is push them away. Oh, this is a good one. Don't guilt them. Don't guilt them. Don't say, oh, I wish you were here with me this Christmas because such and such and such and such. Don't do that. If you guilt them or shame them into being with you, that's not going to enhance your relationship with them whatsoever. Let them be them and let them come up with their own traditions. And hopefully it includes you. Hopefully you have established a good enough relationship. But even if sometimes it doesn't, and as a mother to 3 boys, I see more and more where the boys usually go where the wife's family is. It's usually closer because think about it. Think about yourself. You think your mother does it right. Your family is the best. This is, and just that's the way life is. So I don't really get my feelings hurt. Yes, I may want it to be a different way, but I've learned that I just have to do my own thing and have my own interests also. That's just part of life. Remember, we train our children to grow up and fly out of that nest and watch them flourish and watch them have their own opinions and their own ideas. So give them space. Give them space. You know, we all need space. So let them, like I said, come up with their own traditions, their own things that they want to do for the holidays, even if it doesn't include you. Look, holidays are just one day. Maybe celebrate the holiday on a different day. It's not the end of the world if you don't have your children every single holiday. Maybe plan something special for you and your husband that you've been wanting to do for a holiday, but you just didn't do it because of the kids, you know, or just embrace one of the children for the holidays. If you can only have one of the children for the holidays, embrace your time with that child, especially as an adult. I'm really excited this Thanksgiving. My husband and I are actually going 2 different places. He's going to be with his family. I'm going to be with my oldest son for Thanksgiving. And so it will be different. It will be very different, just me and my son together. But we're going to embrace it and have a wonderful time and create memories together. Now, let's talk about holidays again. Like I said, you've got to, if you want everybody together, make a plan early and tell them. If somebody can't do it, let it go. Maybe you talk to them and see how you can make it all happen if you want everybody together. But remember, a holiday is just one day. There are 365 days in the year. So you can celebrate a holiday on another day. Just that one holiday isn't what makes the memories. It is every single day that you're with your children. Okay, so what do you do as they grow up and they marry and daughter-in-laws or son-in-laws or children, all of that? Again, it goes back to being their friend. And remember that as they get married, they're going to create their own traditions. I asked for advice, and the number one advice I had, and I agree with this totally, is be the mother-in-law that you wanted, right? That you love, affirm, and lavish. Be that mother-in-law that you wanted, especially if you didn't have a great mother-in-law. You know, I think it's really important. I don't have much in common with my daughter-in-laws. I mean, if you just looked on the outside, but we do have something major, major in common: the love of my son. So find whatever it is. And as that time goes along, really nurture that friendship along with your daughter-in-law, and be ready to apologize when you need to, because we're not all perfect. and give her or your son-in-law the benefit of the doubt. I mean, like if they do something, really think they probably didn't mean it to come off that way. And if you're a daughter-in-law, I tell you, give your mother-in-law grace, give your daughter-in-law grace, give your son-in-law grace, give people grace. We have these ideas of who we want everybody to be. We have these ideas of who we want our sons to marry or who we want our brothers to marry or who we want ours to marry. And it may not always come to fruition, but it could be better. Better. It really can be. I mean, I'd have two amazing daughter-in-laws. And like I said, I don't know that we have a ton in common, but we do love my sons. And I have this beautiful granddaughter from my daughter-in-law, which has even given me more in common with her. And so I think we've even grown closer during that time. Really know your boundaries though, and help them to be able to come to you with something that maybe you've done that you had no idea it would affect them. Maybe something you said, maybe something you did, you know, and be ready to apologize. I know years ago, one of the biggest mistakes I made was not embracing a sister-in-law that came in my family. And it really caused a lot of problems. I was young. Again, that's really no excuse, but I was young and very immature and just didn't know. And so I did some things, not out of being mean, just out of being stupid, to be honest with you. And it caused a lot of friction with a sister-in-law. And therefore, we never got to be super close because of my actions. And even later in life, when I went back and really apologized, or I felt like I had apologized, it wasn't received like I had hoped it would have been received. And so to this day, we're not very close. I learned a lot through that. And so I've really tried to be the best mother-in-law that I can be. I am not perfect at all, not by a long shot. And I've had some problems. I've had some mistakes I've made with my daughter-in-law. And luckily, my daughter-in-law has given me grace and knows where my heart is. So anyway, so those are just some things that I am real passionate about adult children. And I'm just going to go back over a few of these things so that maybe if you're listening, you'll think, So remember that closeness starts when they're younger. Definitely starts when they're younger. So it's that quality time that you're spending. If you're still a young mother and you've got children at home, it is the quality time you're spending with them right now that's going to ensure that relationship as they get older. So remember to do things that create more of a friendship. As they get older, remember, you're just a guide. So I think there's this transition. And I think it was Christy Huss that I had on that we were talking about empty nesting and how she talked about she was more a guide to her girls as they were transitioning from high school to college. And I love that term, more of a guide, right? And not so much of this parent, you need to do this. This is what you should do. This is what you have to do. Only give advice when asked. Whew, that's a hard one. That is a hard one. Cut the cord financially as soon as possible. Accept them as they are. They're going to have some ideas, some things that you are going to think are so dumb. But the best thing you can do is just listen to them. Remember when you were that age and some of the ideas you had, right? I mean, I think back, some of the ideas I had at that age were stupid. Don't think that there's only one way to do things. Don't think they have to graduate high school. They have to go to college. They have to get a job. They may be finding their way, and that's okay. Let them find their way. I did a blog post a while back. I had a boomerang child. My youngest son, he went to high school, went to college, graduated, got a great job. 2 or 3 years into this great job, he was making great money. He decides he wants to be a writer. So he boomerangs back home. And it was a very difficult time in my life, and he would even say in his life. And it was tough. There was a very tough time there. And I did not approve of the way he was living his life, and he was living with me. Finally, for our relationship, I had to kick him out. Oh, that was a bad moment in my life, to be honest with you, but I had to tell him he had to go. It was time. He was, I want to say 23, 24, 25, somewhere around in there. And I was like, you've got to go. You've got to make your own way. You cannot live here and do nothing. So, I kicked him out of my house. And I don't want it to sound like I literally kicked him out, but I told him, I'm like, you have a month or something. And I did give him a little bit of money, and I was like, this is it. So just know that we all have different paths, and that's okay. Let them find their path. Try to be there as much as you can, but don't continue to support financially, because it may take them longer and longer. So cut that financial cord as soon as possible. Help them to go out and make their decisions so that you can have your life too, to be honest. I mean, we all need our time in our life. Give them space. Let them make their own traditions for their family. Don't live your life around theirs. Go have your own hobbies, your own interests. And then, again, during the holidays, make a plan. If you want things a certain way, you better give them a heads up way in advance and say, this is what I'd like. But let them know, and they have the ability to say yes or no to it. Don't force it. Don't guilt them. Let them be the adult. If you're forcing and guilting them and they're doing it out of obligation, it's really not what you want. You want them to do it because they want to be with you. And remember, like I said, with the holidays coming up, I know you want everybody there. You want the Brady Bunch family or the Waltons or something like that. We all do. But sometimes we have to just embrace the moments that we are given. And don't worry about how it should be. And just really enjoy every moment that you have with them, and know that it isn't just that one holiday. It is all the moments. It is every moment. And those moments you get one child by themselves, make the most of that, because that is what makes that quality friendship as they get older. I hope this helps you during the holidays. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to hear if you put any of this into practice, or if you have any thoughts about adult children and things you wish you would have known, when they were younger, of what you could have done. I love hearing from you guys. Okay, don't forget, we've got Balanced Eating Method coming up really soon. We'll start any day now. And we're going to coach you through the holidays. How fun is that going to be? If you don't know what Balanced Eating Method is, just click on the link in the show notes. You'll find everything you need to know about it. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon.